In this explainer, we are diving deep into some very serious claims from our source material about the escalating crisis between the US, Iran, and Israel. All right, here's our game plan. We're going to start with a huge contradiction in what we're being told. Then we'll look at what Iran says it actually wants. After that, we'll cover the situation on the ground, the massive economic domino effects, and finally, the really scary part, the risk of this whole thing blowing up into a much bigger war. So, right off the bat, we're faced with two completely different stories, one coming from Washington and another coming from Tehran. It makes it kind of hard to know what's really going on behind the curtain. So, on one hand, you had the US president saying, yep, talks are happening. And that one statement was enough to make the global markets breathe a sigh of relief. But then, almost immediately, Iran comes out and says, nope, not true. No direct contact, nothing. It's a total shutdown. And listen, this isn't just one guy in Iran saying this. It's a completely united front. You've got their foreign minister, government spokespeople, even the head of their parliament. All of them are singing from the exact same sheet music. We are not talking.
So why the conflicting stories? Well, the source material we're breaking down alleges that this talk of negotiations is just a tactic. A move to calm down fuel prices and give the stock market a quick shot in the arm, not a reflection of what's actually happening diplomatically.
Which, of course, leads to the big question, right? If Iran says talks are a no-go, then what's their endgame? What would it actually take to get them to de-escalate? Because, see, Iran isn't just slamming the door. According to our source, they've actually put their cards on the table with a very specific and what they're calling non-negotiable list of demands. And you gotta see, these demands are the whole shebang. They're not just picking at one issue. They're covering everything. The military conflict, their nuclear future, and the economic war being waged against them. It's basically an all-or-nothing deal. And this right here, this could be a massive geopolitical earthquake. Under these conditions, the United States gets zero say in Iran's nuclear program. They're completely cut out. Instead, Iran says it'll work with Russia and China. So with negotiations basically frozen and these really tough conditions on the table, it makes you wonder, what's actually happening on the battlefield? Okay, so let's shift gears to the military reality. And the picture our source paints, well, it's pretty different from a lot of the reports you might be hearing in the mainstream. Now get ready for this number. The source makes an absolutely staggering claim that Iran has successfully destroyed $3 billion worth of critical U.S. radar systems across the Middle East. We're talking about blinding key American intelligence hubs in the region. And the point our source makes is that this isn't just random violence. It's being described as a very smart, very calculated campaign. Iran is supposedly hitting high-value infrastructure and economic targets, like Israel's main airport, while its allies use advanced tech to hit precise military targets. And this is a perfect example of that split reality we talked about. The official story for why a U.S. aircraft carrier is out of commission for over a year? A laundry fire? But the source suggests way more serious possibilities, like a direct hit, or maybe even sabotage from the inside. Now, it's easy to see this as just a regional problem, but according to our source, the economic shockwaves are already hitting the entire globe, and it's a big deal. The heart of the problem is the Strait of Hormuz. We're talking about one of the most critical shipping lanes for oil in the entire world, and the source claims it's effectively been shut down, which is putting unbelievable pressure on any country that needs to import energy. And this isn't just theory. You can see the real-world fallout right here. The currencies of huge economies like South Korea and India are getting hammered, hitting lows we haven't seen in decades, or in India's case, ever. So what happens when that economic pressure gets too high? Well, the source claims that key U.S. allies are starting to feel the pain, and they're apparently going around Washington to cut their own deals directly with Iran just to get their oil tankers through. And all of this, it brings us to the final and frankly the most alarming part of this whole situation. The very real danger, as laid out by our source, that this conflict is about to spin completely out of control. The narrative being presented is that as traditional military options fail to get the job done, a sense of desperation is starting to set in, and that desperation is pushing this entire conflict into a much more dangerous, much more unpredictable phase. And this is the quote that really stops you in your tracks. The source claims that analysts and experts are now predicting that this desperation could lead Israel to do the unthinkable and use a nuclear weapon. So that's where we're left. We've got a situation where diplomacy is supposedly a lie, the battlefield is a bloody stalemate, and economic pressure isn't working. It leaves us with a deeply, deeply unsettling question. Where on earth does this go from here? And according to this analysis, there is no easy answer in sight.